The movie opened with actress Mila Jovovich addressing the audience. She assured them that the film was based on a true story involving real people in the town of Nome, Alaska in the year 2000. However, fearing for the safety of those involved, the filmmakers had changed the names of the characters, even though every event was backed by video evidence. Ultimately, she said, it was up to the viewer to decide whether or not to believe what had happened. In 2002, Chapman University conducted a televised interview with psychologist Dr. Abigail Tyler. During the interview, she recounted a tragic family event from 2 years earlier, in August 2000. Her husband, Will, had mysteriously died in his sleep, leaving her alone with their 2 children, a daughter, Ashley, and a teenage son, Ronnie. Unable to cope with the overwhelming grief, Abby had turned to her colleague, Dr. Abel Campos, a psychologist from Anchorage, for support. He attempted to help her recover the memory of that night, but she was unable to identify the person who killed her husband. Abel recorded a hypnosis session with Abby. Under trance, she recalled being suddenly awakened during the night. She had seen a tall, dark figure standing near the bed, and then witnessed a knife plunge into her husband's chest. Reliving the moment, she screamed in terror, prompting Abel to end the session. He advised her to rest, but Abby believed that pausing would only worsen her condition. She needed to continue her research. She returned to Nome, which was accessible only by air, and resumed her work. One patient was already waiting. The man reported nightly sleep disturbances, always waking at the same time, haunted by the image of an owl in his dreams. Hearing this, Abby immediately recalled similar cases. Other patients had also dreamt of a white owl, which filled them with an inexplicable terror. Strangely, they claimed the owl had first appeared in their childhoods, and they couldn't explain how it had entered their rooms when the windows were closed. Abby decided to conduct hypnotherapy sessions with all 3 patients. However, her personal life remained a source of anguish. Since Will's death, Ashley had lost her voice. The girl was struggling, especially because her classmates believed she was pretending, which only worsened her condition. Ronnie, too, was on edge, angry that his mother could help others but not her own family. He continued to search for answers, confused by what had truly happened that night. Abby suspected that her son blamed her for his father's death. One evening, Abby listened to a tape in which Will had spoken about insomnia cases in Nome. Ashley entered the room upon hearing her father's voice, distracting Abby from the recording. The next day, Abby hypnotized 2 of her patients. Both men described terrifying experiences involving creatures attempting to enter their homes. They became so frightened during the sessions that Abby had to awaken and calm them, though the fear lingered. That same night, Abby was called to the police station. One of her patients had taken his wife and children hostage, demanding to speak with her. At the scene, the man insisted that he had no choice and must do something terrible. He screamed that if others had seen what he had seen, they would understand. He asked about the meaning of the words, Zimabu Iter, but no one could interpret them. Despite Abby's pleas, the man killed his family and then himself. The sheriff interrogated Abby. She mentioned the owl, but he dismissed the idea that a bird could be frightening. He accused her of causing the tragedy through her use of hypnosis. Abby insisted that something terrible was happening in the town, and reminded him that her husband's murder remained unsolved. The sheriff refused to consider supernatural explanations, and ordered her to stop conducting psychological experiments. That night, Abby revisited her memories. She recalled the patient saying that the owl was no longer appearing, as if it had been a false memory. The following day, Abel arrived, worried about her condition. He urged her to stop the investigation, but Abby was convinced that people would continue to suffer unless she uncovered the truth. She agreed to let Abel assist her in the sessions. Later that day, her patient Scott arrived. His symptoms matched those of the deceased man. Scott's wife pleaded with Abby to conduct another hypnosis session, concerned that her husband might be in danger. During the session, Scott described the owl again, but added that it didn't look like a normal bird. He sensed a presence in the house and said they had been coming for him since childhood. He began to convulse, and Abby ended the session in fear. When he recovered, Scott admitted to seeing beings but said he could not describe them. He heard their voices in his head, but couldn't remember what they had done to him. He now understood why the previous patient had acted as he did. Abby began to suspect that her patients had been abducted by aliens. Such reports, she said, were common worldwide, with over 11 million documented cases. Abel remained skeptical due to a lack of concrete proof. Their conversation was interrupted by Abby's assistant, who had listened to a tape Abby gave her. She reported hearing a strange, terrifying voice amidst Abby's screams. Abby had no memory of the event. The voice spoke in an unknown language, and Abby insisted it wasn't hers. That night she replayed the tape. She remembered being asleep when someone or something entered the room. Though she didn't know how the mark on her shoulder had appeared, she now believed the entity had caused it. She recalled trying to resist, but the being was stronger. Later, she found scratch marks on the floor, which confirmed her memory of clinging to the boards. Unable to identify the language on the tape, Abby contacted Dr. Awolowo Odusami, a specialist in ancient languages and a former colleague of her late husband. After hearing her story, he traveled to Nome. He listened to the tape and identified the language as ancient Sumerian. He recognized a few words, our creation to study and completely destroy, but could not fully translate the message. This language, the oldest in human history, had no reason to reappear in modern times. He was disturbed by what the aliens might have done to Abby and noted that the voice was clearly not human. Abel still refused to accept these theories. Odusami pointed out that the Sumerians had depicted rockets, astronauts, and alien figures in artwork long before the construction of the pyramids. He also stated that stories from the Book of Genesis were based on even older Sumerian texts, such as the flood myth that later became the tale of Noah's Ark. Odusami acknowledged that he worked only with facts, even though the full connection remained elusive. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Scott's wife. She urgently requested Abby's help. Scott confessed there had never been an owl, and spoke vaguely of them, but remembered nothing specific. He begged to be hypnotized again. During the session, Scott levitated above the bed. A harsh voice speaking in Sumerian demanded that Abby stop her research. The video feed failed, so Abel couldn't record the event. Scott convulsed violently, and a terrified Abby ended the session. She rushed home and told her children to pack. The family had to leave. Just then, the sheriff arrived and informed her that Scott had been left paralyzed from the neck down. Believing Abby responsible, he tried to arrest her, but Abel intervened, defending her. The sheriff placed Abby under house arrest and assigned a police officer to monitor her home. In the 2002 interview, Abby explained that there were 4 recognized types of alien contact. The first was the sighting of a UFO. The second involved physical evidence like crop circles. The third included direct encounters. But the fourth kind, abduction, was the most terrifying. It happened globally, and most people didn't remember because they were made to forget. Back in 2000, the police officer monitoring Abby's house sat in his patrol car when a massive black triangular object appeared in the sky. The video distorted, and the officer was heard screaming for backup. The police, led by the sheriff, stormed the house. They found Ronnie and Abby, who was hysterical, claiming that Ashley had been taken in a beam of light. The sheriff, still disbelieving, accused Abby of abducting her daughter and took Ronnie from her custody. Determined to find her daughter, Abby chose to undergo hypnosis herself, with Abel and Odusami recording the session. She mentioned the owl. Moments later, she began screaming. The camera shook, violent noises were heard, and Abby saw a device burrowing into her shoulder. A cruel voice declared that the child would remain with him because he was God. Odusami later translated the phrase as, the spirit from which you cannot escape. The film returned to Abby's 2002 interview. She said all 3 of them had been abducted during the hypnosis session, though none remembered the event. They had all been returned that same night. Abby admitted that what she felt during that experience was beyond human comprehension, and it was hopelessness, so it couldn't have been God. After the session, Abby awoke in the hospital. She had broken her neck during the abduction. The sheriff visited her and showed her a photo of Will. It revealed the truth. He had shot himself in the head. Her belief that he had been murdered was a coping mechanism. Abel asked her not to blame herself, reminding her that even the best psychologists couldn't always understand the mind. Abby acknowledged that, while she may have processed her husband's death in such a way, there were still tapes that couldn't be ignored. Scott's injuries were real, and Ashley had never been found. Abby said she still hoped to see her daughter again. The broadcast ended with the revelation that Abby was now paralyzed from her neck injury. The host explained that the FBI had visited Nome over 2,000 times, though no official cases were ever opened. Dr. Abel Campos continued his psychological practice. Dr. Odusami became a university professor in Canada. Neither man nor the sheriff agreed to participate in the film. Abby's son Ronnie, now 22, still blamed his mother for Ashley's disappearance and rarely visited. All charges against Abby were dropped. She moved from Alaska to the East Coast and remained bedridden, still searching for her daughter. During the credits, audio recordings were played of various people recounting UFO sightings. The film captured the atmosphere of a remote town where strange things occurred beyond explanation or control. The acting was strong, especially with Jovovich's performance as a highlight. Though the plot was dense and sometimes hard to follow, and the mockumentary style disorienting, the film ultimately left it to the viewer to decide what to believe. What did you think? Did the ending surprise you, or were you expecting it all along? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next movie breakdown. Want more? Check out our recap of similar movie right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.